To study crime without understanding psychopathology is to read the story without understanding its author. Crime is not merely a violation of law, but often a window into the complexities of the human mind. Psychopathology allows us to explore those hidden depths, the disorders, distortions, and dark impulses that shape criminal behavior. In today's session, we step beyond statistics and case files into the psychological undercurrents of crime to understand how the mind and the law collide in shaping the narratives of justice. It is my absolute honor to introduce our esteemed guest speaker, Dr. Dibesh, a distinguished academic and practitioner whose journey embodies the perfect intersection of sociology, psychology, and law. Dr. Debarma holds a PhD in sociology from the Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, and an MPhil in planning and development, also from IIT Bombay. Adding to this, he has masters in social work with specialization in criminology and correctional administration from Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai, and a foundation in psychology from the University of Pune. Career reflects not just scholarships, but hands-on engagement with the core of society's challenges. From working with the anti-narcotics cell of CBI, CID, and Mumbai Police on criminal justice and rehabilitation, to contributing with UNICEF India on impactful developmental projects. His professional path bridges theory and real-world transformation. Currently serving as a guest faculty at National Forensic Sciences University Tripura campus, he continues to shape the next generation of forensic and criminology professionals while also being deeply engaged in research spanning criminology, psychopathology, conflict law, and governance. He has presented and published works at both national and international platforms, from Japan to Coimbatore to Tripura, bringing insights into law, society, conflict, and human behavior. His doctoral research on land, law, and conflict in Tripura challenged dominant assumptions and opened new perspectives through the lens of legal pluralism. Dr. Debbarma's intellectual curiosity, combined with his practical experiences across institutions such as the Maharashtra State Human Rights Commission, NRCI, NAMI India, and international academic collaborations, makes him a powerhouse of interdisciplinary knowledge. Today, as we dive deep into the intersection of crime and psychopathology, there could be no better guide. His expertise, passion, and lived experience promises to illuminate the intricate connections between the human mind and the acts that shake society. So, without further delay, let us extend a warm welcome to Dr. Dibesh Debbarma, a scholar, practitioner, and a mentor who inspires us to understand crime not just as an act, but as a profound reflection of the human psyche. But before we begin, here are a few general instructions for everyone. First, please keep your microphones muted and cameras on during the session. If you have any questions or doubts during the lecture, please feel free to drop them in the chat box. These will be addressed during the Q&A session at the end. And once again, thank you for being here. Let's make this an engaging and insightful session. Over to you, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Swapnil, and thank you.
So you are audible.
Oh, thank you, thank you. One thing, I need to share the PPT. How do I share it with everyone? Because when I'm trying to share the screen, it's not happening.
Sir, there is a small rectangular button with an arrow made on it.
I'm just looking at it, and there are 3 buttons. Then there's a reaction, then the chat. Yeah, that's what I said, share screen, right? Or share file. Which one should I do?
Share screen.
Okay, that's what I did, but it didn't work out what I'm trying to wait. Hello.
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Is the PPT visible?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Swapnil. And I also thank the team of Y Crime for giving this opportunity. Please let me know if I'm not audible in between, if the network drops and all. Uh, how do I start and where do I start? Just a second. Okay. What do you mean by, say, if I have to start with what is crime in psychopathology, first it's better to understand what does pathology means. So for us, pathology, what do you understand by the word pathology? Any idea? Anybody can say that? What does it pathology means?
So can you repeat this question?
What does the word pathology means to all of you? What do you understand when you hear the word pathology? What do you understand?
Disease or the measurement to
Yeah,
measure
correct.
the
True. So what is happening is, as like pathology, the study of nature of diseases and all. When you use the word psychopathology, it's basically we are trying to understand mental issues, mental illness, and mental health issues. Therefore, we use the word psychopathology. So, therefore, psychopathology refers to the study of mental disorders or mental illness in terms of their causes, development, classification, treatment, and many other factors. So, whenever you hear the word psychopathology, it basically deals with psychological issues or mental health issues. And we want to understand the cause of the disease, how it has happened, what are the possible treatment available. So all those part would be seen as a part of psychopathology. Am I clear?
yes, sir.
So psychopathology is the study of psychological disorders, including their symptoms, their causes, and their treatment. The term psychopathology can also be referred to the manifestation of a psychological disorder. So anything to deal with psychological disorders can be called as psychopathology, or can be classified under psychopathology category. Okay. So how do you figure out who has psychopathology, who doesn't have? So there are certain signs of psychopathology. Say for example, uh, in terms of signs, if you see these signs in my PPT, these signs are also all of us has gone through these signs of change in eating habit, change in mood, excess worry, anxiety, feeling distress, thought of self-harm, sleep disruptions, low energy and feeling of fatigue, withdrawal from activities, no trouble coping with daily life. We have gone through all these symptoms. So then does that make us all psychopaths? Or can we be classified under psychopathology? So
So
therefore,
we go through these signs or symptoms,
uh,
but we recover from it. But
yeah.
the one who doesn't recover, they fall in the psychopathology
Yeah, so there are
category.
certain. So therefore, if you read clinical psychology also, if you happen to read clinical psychology, we'll see when we read the various psychological disorders, we tend to see all the symptoms we have all gone through. However, we do not fall in the category of mental health patient or into this category of psychopathology, probably of the fact that these are everybody goes through these symptoms, but if you could recover and it is not disrupting your daily life activities, you are not considered as an patient of that particular disease. So therefore, there are certain factors which would put you in the category of someone suffering from that disease or someone not suffering from the disease. So therefore, we cannot say just by looking at the symptoms that, oh, these people might be suffering from these kind of mental health issues or not. There has to be a continuous, there's a history of that repeating for a longer time. So there will be a continuity of these symptoms happening for a long period of time. Also, the severity of how severely it is affecting the person, and all those two is it making the person not able to function in the daily life, in the daily routine activities that we tend to do? If that these three categories, these three parts come together and is disrupting my daily life activities, then I might be considered as a mental health patient, which might need any form of help or intervention in that category. So therefore, just mere looking at the symptoms from somebody, we cannot judge or tell someone that he or she suffers from that kind of mental health, or it can be categorized as psychopath in that sense. So what are the various causes of psychopathology? Just like in crime, we need to understand crime from multiple perspectives, because crime happens and there are multiple reasons, causes of crime. So therefore, we also use the concept of multiple causation theory, where we look at any crime that has happened, we look in different causes and trying to find out which are causes that has caused this crime. In the same logic, we cannot singularly pinpoint and say this is the cause of psychopathology. In some cases, you might see someone's biological condition predominated that led him or her to a psychopathology condition, and in somebody else it might be the psychological factors rather than the biological factors, and in many other cases it could be the environmental factors, the physical environment in which the person is staying or the social environment in which person is staying has an impact on this person's overall well-being. So all the combination of all these three factors can be seen as a cause of psychopathology. So therefore, one singular cause may not be the right approach to understand psychopathology in any particular case. So we always need to look at it from multiple perspectives to have a better understanding or a better holistic understanding of how psychopathology works and how it functions among people. And in terms of when I'm saying environmental factors, it could be your physical environment. Probably you are staying in a very stressful environment, like you are staying in a very big metro city where life is very stressful. You are always running after deadlines and deadlines. So therefore, that kind of environment might have an impact on your psychological as well as biological well-being. Also, social factors, the society in which you are staying in, or the family environment. If you have a very stressful home environment, it might also lead to psychological issues. So therefore, you consider, like a lot of times you will see one of the major cause of juvenile delinquency or factors of juvenile delinquency among children is broken homes, where there are issues among the family members or within the family of those juveniles. Therefore, environment, biology, psychology, all these three together, all these three factors are important to understand what causes psychopathology if I have to understand from a larger holistic perspective. However, in some cases, one of the two conditions might dominate over another, but it is always the combination of these three factors that causes psychopathology among people. So how do you define? Suppose we had these symptoms, we had shown these symptoms of mental illness or psychopathological symptoms, but then I as an individual or someone as an individual cannot say that he or she suffers from psychological disorder. So it has to be done by a specialist. Say a psychiatrist will be able to tell you, will be able to diagnose that and tell you whether you suffer from or not, or a psychological counselor in that sense. So therefore, how does one define and assess abnormal psychological condition? There are 4 Ds. The Ds are, first is, the 4 Ds are deviance, distress, dysfunction, and danger. Now, suppose you have, if I have to explain it in an example, I could say X have psychological conditions or abnormal psychological condition or psychopathological condition by saying that whether his behavior first is deviance. What the word deviance means? You deviate from the existing social norms or social path. See, every society that you stay, or whoever stays in whatever society they go, there are certain rules and regulations, and we abide by those rules. If we break these rules, we might be seen as deviant behavior, but not necessarily committing a crime. We may not be, say, for example, in Indian context, same-sex relationship among adults are not considered illegal, but it can be seen as a deviant behavior. Here, the context is, it is not breaking any law, but it is breaking the social norms set by the society. So therefore, you are deviant in this category, but not a criminal, because you have not violated any law in that sense. So therefore, one of the first D's that you look for the signs and symptoms of anyone, if you think that suffering mental illness, is deviance, behavior or thoughts or emotions that are unusual or different from social norms. You are continuously observing that things that doing is very different, and it is not one time or two times. He or she has been doing it for continuous occasions. Then second is distress. Distress could be, I'm extremely anxious, I am having negative thoughts, sadness, anxiety, a sense of guilt. We all go through this emotions. We feel sad, we feel anxious before exams, before an important occasion. We might feel anxious, like I'm anxious before I start this presentation in front of all of you. So that is normal. But if this anxiety or this distress continues for a longer period of, even in a normal situation where you would not require to be distressed, but still you're feeling that anxiety and distress and sadness, then in that case you need some kind of help, some kind of assistance, because continuously having these negative emotions is a problematic situation. Then you have dysfunction. These behavior or these emotions that you are feeling through is interfering with your daily activity. You are unable to perform your daily rituals. Say for example, you are feeling sad, fine. Someone loses their near and dear ones, they feel sad for a brief period of time, and then they gradually go back to their normal life routine. But if this continues and you are not able to say get up from the bed, or you're not able to get up, go to your work or your institute for your work, and it is causing problem in those part of your life also, then it is a problem. Therefore, these distress, if causing dysfunction in your daily activities, then it is a problem. Therefore, and then it can be seen as one of the symptoms of psychopathic condition or abnormal psychological condition. And the last one, the fourth D, is danger. Someone can also become self-harming or harm to other, like for example suicidal tendency. Someone who is at a suicidal tendency is in a position to commit harm to himself or herself, and therefore need assistance or help, immediate help. Or your negative emotions of anxiety or guilt, or your say, how do I use this word, so you are always very angry, that is fine. But if that anger is being expressed physically on other people, then it becomes a danger, because then you are in a position of hurting other people. So if all these D's are present in any of these abnormal psychological symptoms and behavior, then it needs to be considered as a psychological condition and needs immediate or long-term help. Otherwise, this if continued, then people who suffer from these kind of symptoms are more prone to either commit crime or become victims of crime. So therefore, in that kind of way, psychological condition or psychopathological conditions effect and crime has a relationship. So therefore, you will see someone, say for example, as a child, as an adolescent, when all of you are growing up, some might show symptoms of aggression, and you might say, oh, this child is very aggressive, he is very hyper, he is very aggressive. Fine, as a child it can be tolerated. But as the child grows up, if this behavior is not controlled properly, and if the same kind of aggression and excessive behavior is being expressed or shown by the child when he becomes an adolescent or an adult, then what is the possibility that he would end up into physical altercations or physical fight with somebody, which might lead him to conflict with law. So therefore, certain symptoms, depending on the age factor, need to be tackled as per the age progresses. Certain behavior that you do at a certain age may not be acceptable once you cross that age and go to a different age group in that sense. So therefore, these 4Ds are very, very crucial to understand or define or assess any kind of psychological condition. So therefore, these 4Ds provide a framework for distinguishing between normal and abnormal human experiences and guide the process of identifying and planning care for mental health disorders. We would avoid using the word abnormal. It is difficult to define what abnormal is. Sometimes what is abnormal or unacceptable behavior in one particular setting or in your socio-economic or socio-cultural condition may be absolutely normal in another socio-cultural condition. So therefore, this abnormal word is very difficult to define or standardize in many factors. So, what are the key components of psychopathology? In the sense that what are the key areas in which psychopathology can be understood? First of all, there are four important these are personal components. Like if somebody is suffering from psychopathological conditions, these are the symptoms that you can look for that you will see being affected. First is loss of freedom or ability to consider alternatives. Say, for example, someone undergoing depression, serious depressive condition, and might be depression and suicidal condition. The sense of or the sense of loss that there's no future is becomes so high or so strong that he or she doesn't see any future ahead and feels like ending his life. So there is a sense of he doesn't see any alternatives to this condition of his life, and he sees this is the life I'm stuck to and I need to get out of it. I can't find any alternative. Therefore, the best alternative that I could only see is to kill myself. So therefore, in many cases, you will see the person suffering from psychopathology will also have a loss of freedom or ability to consider alternatives. Second is a loss of genuine personal contact. These kind of person would stop communicating with people, will stop any kind of social or personal interaction. They will withdraw themselves. They will withdraw themselves from the society or from people they would usually interacting, and would like to stuck themselves inside the four walls of their houses. Or say, for example, we also undergo this phase when you are going through a bad phase of life, or say we are undergoing any kind of depression. We tend to not interact with people, go to social gatherings, but that feeling or that symptoms for a shorter duration. But if it keeps on continuing for a longer time, when you stop, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
The loss of genuine personal contact is an important indicator for.
Sir, you're not audible.
Okay, thank you. So loss of genuine personal contact, or you withdraw from other people because trying to be alone all the time is a key symptom or a key component of psychopathology in an individual. Then a loss of connection with oneself. How do you define oneself? Is the word anybody has anything to ask, you can ask.
Sir, if
Social
social
isolation
isolation
is
is
psychopathological
psychopathological
disorder,
disorder,
What? Which one?
I
I
asked you
asked
that
you that
social
social
isolation
isolation
is a
is a
psychological
psychological
disorder.
disorder.
That would see, we all get socially isolated depending on our situation, personal experience. We go through bad phase of life we're going through. You want to be alone. That is fine. Just that for how long that is happening and how it is affecting the person, whether the person has completely stopped his daily routine activities and is affecting his daily life. If that is happening, then it might require certain kind of professional help in that sense. We all say, suppose that you lost someone near and dear one in your life, or you are not in a very good, you are not physically well and you want to stay alone and you don't want to go out. That is fine. But if social isolation continues for longer period of time, that you stop completely meeting everybody, all the even your near and dear ones you used to meet earlier, then it might require some kind of intervention in that sense. So therefore, sometimes you will see people saying introverts can be seen as some kind of problem. That is not an issue. People have personality types. Someone who's introvert may not prefer going out, but he will not stop meeting anybody. He will have a very close circle of friends and near and dear ones with whom he is very comfortable. So therefore, some people might say being an introvert is a problem. It is not. Depending on your situation, therefore, the categorization have three categories: introvert, extrovert, and ambivert. Majority of the population fall into the ambivert category, where according to the situation demand, you make adjustments and accordingly you perform in the society or in your daily interactions in that sense. So another key components of psychopathology is the ability to live in a productive manner. What happens when you have a psychopathological condition? This ability is being punctured. In this place, you will find it very difficult for you to do productive work. It might affect your professional life, and it might also, in terms of your work life, it might have an impact in that. Therefore, you might see suddenly your performance dropping out, or your boss or your seniors might be, trying to say that why aren't you performing? What is happening? So if this part is continuing for a longer term, then you need, because it is okay. At times we perform, at times we don't perform. That is absolutely fine. But in all these cases, when it is continuing for a longer period of time, that is when one needs to look into it from a pathological condition. And finally, my personal distress or individual distress, how people cope with the stressors that they have, what kind of defense mechanisms they use to deal with different stress in their life, also matters in terms of to understand what psychopathological conditions one is going through. So these are personal components of an individual who probably can be seen from a psychopathological perspective. So what is the relationship between crime and psychopathology? Because at one point the law says that if you suffer from any kind of medical condition, and if you commit a crime in that situation, you are not seen as a criminal or a suspect. You will be seen, you will be treated as a patient, and you will be sent to rehab centers or any kind of medical help in that sense. So therefore, how do you see crime and psychopathology? Some mentally ill people are said to have psychopathic personality. So what is psychopathic personality? They lack consciousness and empathy and are said to possess some abnormal and psychopathic trends like being ruthless and unstable. So therefore, in this personality characteristics, what they talk about, that someone who is diagnosed or can be talked about as seen as psychopathic personality will have no empathy or for anybody or sympathy for anybody. Like for example, a lot of sociopaths. Sociopaths are considered in a way that they do not form any kind of emotional or empathetic relationship with the person if he or she is being staying for years and years. So, for example, if you start staying with somebody, say you went to a hospital and you started staying with that roommate of yours for at least 2 to 5 years, you develop a sense of emotional attachment to a degree, and that might stop you from causing harm in many cases. However, someone who has psychopathic personality may not develop any sense of interpersonal relationship or the sense of empathy. There's a difference between empathy and sympathy. So they will not have the sense of empathy with anybody. It's like, even though I know you for 5 years, 6 years, while committing crime against you, I'll not give a second thought because I do not have that connection. We are not able to make that connection. So therefore, a very small percentage of people do have this lack of empathy about other people. So therefore, it's a very small percentage. So therefore, it may be concluded that though mental disease may be factored in crime, yet it does not is the only cause of crime or delinquent behavior. So therefore, just because someone has a mental health issue or someone lacks empathy or someone does not have good interpersonal relationship, cannot be considered as psychopathic or criminal. For that, it has to be diagnosed by a professional to come to this judgment. Otherwise, a lot of people who are not very good at maintaining relationships. They have undergone many breakups in their lives. Some people are not good at maintaining long-term relationships. Some people are not good at maintaining marriage relationships. The marriages break. Doesn't mean that they are all considered psychopaths. But one of the symptoms of psychopath is they will have very lack of consciousness, the sense of guilt, a sense of guilt that I have committed a crime, or that will be missing from them in most of the cases, and also there will be lack of empathy or no empathy among themselves. So what the various causes of psychopathology? As we said, that there are no particular one way to understand psychopathology. The causes are also very multidimensional. So there could be a biological factor. Say for example, biological factors could be a genetic factor, a genetic predisposition, a family history of mental illness, increase the risk of multiple genes like interaction or to trigger a disorder. So a genetic factor can also be a reason for psychopathology. Then you can have brain chemistry. imbalances of neurotransmitters, chemical messengers in the brain are often associated with mental disorders. So any kind of uh, biological disorders within the body of the individual can also cause psychopathology. Also, any kind of trauma, psychological factors could be some kind of trauma. The person has undergone a very bad experience, a very severe trauma, and that has led to a change in the person's approach towards other. So stressful life events, how stressful the person is going to, the kind of stress situation he is being exposed to or she is exposed to a longer period of time, can also be a cause of psychopathology. Then you have social factors. You can have social isolation, loneliness, lack of friends, or feeling isolated can increase the risk of mental illness. So these are various factors. And also another important factor of mental illness is your substance use. Substance abuse is seen as a very important factor because the effect of substance abuse on your changes in the biological changes that happens in the body and the change in the brain structure can also lead to psychopathology in that sense. So there are multiple factors or causes of psychopathology to understand psychopathology. So it is both biological, psychological, and environmental factors. Now, broadly, there are, apart from these, there are also many others, but these are the broad examples of where you see psychopathological causes. One is bipolar disorder. The other is anxiety disorder. You have major depressive disorder, schizophrenia, obsessive compulsive disorder, and antisocial personality disorder. So these are broad categories, but you can also, there are also categories where they have said other forms of disorders can also be considered in under psychopathology. So what is bipolar? The best way to remember bipolar is you remember the poles, the north and the south poles, and they are two poles apart. So so therefore, someone who has a bipolar disorder will have excessive mood swing. Like for example, right now the person is happy, jolly. Suddenly, he would or she would get into a very serious and somber mood and will stop talking to everybody. And you will not understand what has happened, why it is happening. So the swing of mood is very quick, and it's like you difficult to figure out when he will be happy or she will be happy, or at what situation he will become angry or sad. So someone who has mood disorder or bipolar disorder, in that sense, is difficult in that sense. Therefore, they're saying that serious mood swings from extreme highs to lows are characteristic of features of bipolar disorder. Symptoms: when depressed, a person feels sad, hopeless, and lethargic, and may feel suicidal, among other symptoms. When manic, a person becomes overly elated, more irritable, requires less sleep, makes grand plans, and may impulsively engage in potential dangerous behavior. So once you are in a sad mood, you will completely isolate yourself, and suddenly you are in this euphoric and extremely happy mood. You would end up making promises that you cannot fulfill, and you might take risky behavior in that sense. So therefore, if I give an example of bipolar disorder, I may not be accurate with the example, but how many people, if you have seen the
Sir,
hello?
Individual person containing dual personality or dual characteristics will come under bipolar disorder.
It has to be diagnosed by if you say dual personality disorder, that has to be diagnosed by the psychiatrist or a psychologist. And then within that, if the person has extreme mood swings, then it can be considered. So the symptoms are, if you see the symptoms, we also have mood swings, right? You might be having mood swings that I did not do well in the exams, and I don't feel like talking to anybody, and I might keep myself away from people for say 1 week or 2 weeks. But to be diagnosed as what is considered as a mental health issue or a behavioral problem or disorder, that severity, intensity, and if it is disrupting your daily life activities, then it can be considered a disease. Otherwise, we all go through mood swings. We all have. Like if you have seen the movie Animal, the recent movie of Ranbir Kapoor, you see it is difficult for him to predict when he will become angry, when he will become sad. Suddenly, at inappropriate situation, when you are supposed to be sad, he is laughing. So these symptoms people can say, like a lot of times people when they are met with extreme trauma, they're shocked, they don't know how to express themselves, say they will start laughing. So some people use laughing as a defense mechanism to hide their emotions also. So therefore I cannot say that they have mood swings. For that to happen, I have to observe, see the history of what has been happening, then only I can figure it out in that sense.
Okay, sir.
So what are the symptoms? You have extreme depression to extreme, euphoric state, or you're very happy, extremely happy. Then you have anxiety. See, we all undergo a sense of anxiety, anxiety, feeling restlessness, if anxious about certain events happening. So you are waiting for your board exam results, or you're waiting for some entrance exam results, and you feel anxious. That is fine. But someone with anxiety disorder will go through the symptoms for continuous period of time or longer period, even it is a normal situation. Like, you don't need to panic, you don't need to be anxious, but still the person will have that sense of anxiety, and it will also be shown in the physical symptoms. So there's something called as psychosomatic issues. Psychosomatic, your psychological stressors are affecting and is being lifted out in your physical symptoms. Say, for example, in many cases, people who suffer from asthma or asthma, you say, can you also seen as psychosomatic disorder, because whenever you're in a stressful situation, you feel anxious, it affects your nerve, and the physical symptom is that you suffer from an asthma or asthma. So the best way to deal with these diseases is to get rid of your psychological stressors. Plan your task in advance. Make plans how to finish your task rather than finishing in the last moment at the 11th hour, so that it will make you anxious. And this anxious disorder might show in the physical symptoms of your asthma attack or any other physical symptoms in that sense. So therefore, someone with anxiety disorder can be said that they are in that mode or in that situation for a continuous period or longer period of time in that sense. If a major depressive disorder, it is characterized by long period of depressed mood, loss of pleasure, or lack of interest in activities. Now again, we all go through these symptoms. It is only when you are continuously showing these symptoms for a longer period of time, and it is affecting your daily life activities and normal, quote unquote, normal activities in your life, then it can be considered as a major depressive disorders. Otherwise, everybody has undergone depression at a certain point of time in different phases of their life and have recovered from it. The symptoms of major depressive disorders are extremely depressed mood, accompanied by slowdown of mental and physical activity, gloom, despair, feeling of worthlessness, and thoughts of hello, hello.
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yes, sir.
So schizophrenia is a very severe mental health condition characterized by distortion of thinking, perception, emotion, language, sense of self, and behavior. It's like basically you lose a sense of, you are completely disconnected to the sense of reality. You are one of the forms. Schizophrenia for many types, different types of schizophrenic symptoms you can have. It is usually, in a simple way, if I say, you lose a sense of reality. You are completely in touch with, away from the touch of reality, what is happening, what is the real life that you are in, and you have different you might suffer from delusions, you might suffer from hallucinations, you might show inappropriate emotional responses in situations that demand certain kind of responses or emotional responses. So therefore, it's a combination of many factors, many symptoms that can lead to schizophrenic conditions. The symptoms are perception wise. A person may think other people are talking about him or her, hear voices. That is called, say for example, schizophrenia with paranoia. Paranoia is the extreme form of, it's extreme fear. You are constantly feeling that somebody is plotting and scheming against you. कोई आपके पीछे है, कोई आपके पीछे खड़ा है, कोई आपको continuous देख रहा है. Somebody is trying to kill you. This feeling, irrational feeling that you have. So someone with this, someone suffering from schizophrenia paranoia will have these kind of feelings. He will hear voices. He will see people here and there. Hallucinations and delusions in that sense. The person may also feel sad and irritable, or that he or she is constantly being watched. Behavior-wise, the person may have difficulty sleeping, talking to him or herself, and behave aggressively. So these symptoms, when continuously persist in an individual, and it affects the individual also and the person he or she is interacting with, then it becomes a problem and needs professional help. Therefore, we all have undergone the symptoms of schizophrenia, but we do not consider ourselves schizophrenia because we do not show these symptoms for a longer period of time, and it affects us in our daily life, or it affects the people around us in that sense. Therefore, we cannot consider ourselves in that sense. But someone with schizophrenia, and if shown these symptoms for a longer period of time, need help. Now, I will come to the connection of how this and crime is connected to it in the sense after I finish this typologies. Then you have obsessive compulsive disorder. OCD is a long-lasting disorder in which a person experiences uncontrolled and recurring thoughts, engages in repetitive behavior, or both. People with OCD have time-consuming symptoms that can cause significant distress or interfere with symptoms. Symptoms of fear of contamination or dirt, doubting and having a hard time dealing with uncertainty, needing things to be orderly and balanced, aggressive and horrific thoughts about losing control and harming yourself or others. Now, someone who is obsessive and compulsive, there are two parts of it. There is obsession and there's compulsion. So the commonest form of obsession and compulsion is someone who is extremely tidy and super clean. What happens is he's so or she's so obsessed with cleanliness that she will keep on washing his hand or her hand for everything that he or she touches, even if it's not required. So this obsession leads him to compulsive behavior, and it becomes a cyclic condition that you are so obsessed with cleanliness that you are constantly this obsession is constantly pushing you to constantly wash your hand, all the time, even if it's not required. So anybody with these kind of symptoms, someone who is obsessive compulsive disorder, might be a problem in terms of, say, a simple example could be, has anybody seen an old Bollywood movie called Dar of Shah Rukh Khan and Sunny Deol and Juhi Chawla, or heard about the movie?
Yes, sir.
If you see the character of Shah Rukh Khan in that movie, that he is so obsessed with Juhi Chawla, the female protagonist, that he cannot let go. And that obsession is constantly compelling him to get in touch with her all the time, to the point that it has become like stalking in that sense. So your obsession lead to a certain compulsive behavior, you're repeating it all the time in that sense. Say, for example, if you have seen the series called Big Bang Theory, if you take example of Sheldon, he may not show extreme symptoms of OCD behavior, but in certain cases, he has an obsessive compulsive behavior, the need for everything to be on the spot, as it is, to the point. So that kind of symptoms can be problematic also in a longer run, because it will affect the interpersonal relations. Imagine you and your friend who has obsessive compulsive, how difficult it will be for anyone to manage that person. How long you can do it. Also, imagine someone of your friend who has extreme mood swing. How long you can be a friend to him? How long you can take these extreme mood swings in that sense? You have antisocial personality disorder, which basically talks about sometimes called sociopath, is a mental health condition in which a person consistently shows no regard for right and wrong and ignores the rights and feelings of others. People with antisocial personality disorder tend to purposely make others angry or upset and manipulate or treat others harshly or with cruel indifference. In a nutshell, they would have absolutely no regard for rules and regulations and other person's safety. They would break the rules and laws. They would put other people's lives in danger, and they do not have any sense of remorse. They will not feel guilty of what they have done. So therefore, someone with antisocial personality will be kind of breaking all kind of social norms, legal norms, any kind of norms they have to come to, they will break it. Like, for example, why this is important of the fact that think of someone as a child who doesn't listen to their parents and does exactly opposite is fine. It is accepted. A lot of children do it. We don't consider it as a disorder. But if this behavior is not checked at the correct time, and the child grows up to an adolescent behavior, becomes an adolescent, say in his high school level, then he will have the tendency to become a bully in the school. He would not listen to the teachers. He would break school laws. He would break school norms. He would bully other people, pick up fights with other people. Then it becomes a problem, because then he might be charged into juvenile delinquency if that behavior persists and something serious happens. And even if that time is not checked and he becomes an adult, then his behavior is likely to get him into a lot of trouble. Either he would end up being a victim of crime, or he would commit crime by hitting someone or causing problem to someone. So therefore, antisocial personality disorder is an important typology in terms of psychopathology, and it needs to be checked at the very beginning. In fact, all symptoms, if can be identified in the very beginning, can be treated with a lot of therapies and medication. So therefore, these types of people, people who suffer from these types of disorders of psychopathic symptoms are more prone to either being a victim of crime or committing crime in that sense. Therefore, can we say that psychopathy or psychopath can be hereditary? Well, in criminology, we don't say that we do not agree to the fact that there is a concept called genetics and crime. We don't say there is a crime, for every there is a criminal genes that everybody has. We don't agree to that. In psychopathy, we do not agree to it that all patients are genetically passed on, but there are cases where cases have come where it has been seen hereditary wise that there's a history of psychopathic tendency or psychological disorder which has been passed down to generations, but it is not necessary that it is passed down to everybody. It is not compulsory. In some cases it gets passed down, in some cases it may not, or in some cases even it is passed down, but if the person takes proper care and protection, he may not develop these symptoms at all. So therefore the concept of epigenesis, like for example, we all have genes which might cause cancer. So if, say for example, I give you two situations where one, in case A, an individual has a history of cancer patient in his family, so he or she is more likely to have cancer. So accordingly, he has taken all precautions right from the very early age, kept a very good lifestyle, stay away from all kind of addictive substances, had very good food, healthy food, avoid fast food, and undergone physical exercise regularly and mental exercise. Everything he has taken care of, then his possibility of getting cancer minimizes. And in many cases, the person may not show any case of signs of cancer during his lifetime. And in another case, say for example, a person may not have no history of cancer, but have not taken any precautions, have taken all sorts of addictive substances, carcinogenic substances, have not taken good food, taken care of his health, physique, mental health, physical health, and undergone all sort of addictive substances, alcohol to drugs and everything, possibility of him and getting cancer chances increases. So therefore, it depends on the debate of nature versus nurture. Like in what conditions certain genes get expressed, and under what certain conditions certain genes will not get expressed. So therefore, here your environmental factors, your lifestyles also matters a lot in terms of what symptoms get expressed in future and what symptoms will not get expressed in future. So therefore, although there isn't any psychopathic genes, research indicates that psychopathy often runs in family. A parent may have one or more genetic variations that raise the child risk of developing psychopathology, even if they do not themselves exhibit psychopathology. However, the response of the majority of psychological consequences result from the interplay of hundreds and thousands of genes. About half of the diversity of psychopathologic features is due to combined impact of many. So therefore, it's a mix of both genes, genetic factors, and environmental factors. Your lifestyle, the place that you're staying with, the way you are, the exposure, the life exposure that you have, the experiences that you are having in life, and the genetic factor. So one factor cannot be said is the reason for psychopathology. It is a combination of multiple factors in that sense. So now, where do I look into psychopathology in crime? The basic concept it deals with mental competency. Like for example, what is talking about here is in the legal system that we talk about, someone who has mental condition and mentally unstable or suffer from mental illness cannot be considered as committing a crime and needs treatment. So he will not be sent to a jail or a prison. He will be sent to a medical health facility or a hospital. Now, how does one determine whether the person has a mental health condition or not is what a forensic expert, a psychiatrist, or a psychologist role comes into play. Otherwise, what would happen? Anybody would commit a crime and then pretend to be a mental health patient or having some kind of disease in that sense. Therefore, this mental competency assessment is the crucial part to decide whether someone is genuinely a mental health, suffering psychopathological conditions, and therefore need not be sent for punishment, but rather for treatment or not. In a mental competency that they talk about, that psychiatric diagnosis are taken into account when determining whether mentally ill defendants are competent to stand trial, or in that event they are guilty enough to be prosecuted or further offenses. In a simple language, the two essential elements of crime is actus reus and mens rea, the action and the mindset. Here we're talking about that while committing the crime, if the person knows what he or she is getting into, then the consequences of the crime, and knows what will happen if I'm committing this crime or this act that is I'm committing, then he or she will be tried under the criminal procedure. If that part is missing, then if actus reus or mens rea cannot be established in the crime that has happened, then in that case the person may not be going to a jail but rather to a mental health facility. So that is why someone who is considered a psychopathic criminal or psychopath are not given treatment but sent to imprisonment, because while committing the crime they are well aware of the act they are committing and also the consequences of the crime, and still they undergo this crime. And also most psychopaths would commit crime in a very planned manner. That means they are well aware of the act they are getting into and the consequences of that act. So in that case, both mens rea and actus reus is applicable, and the person who is committing them is also aware of that. Therefore, in that case, they will be sent to criminal trial, and if proven guilty beyond reasonable doubt, they will be sent to imprisonment. If that is not established, if the person's mental competency cannot be established, and the person is not in a position to understand what is going through, and during the case going on, the person should be in a position to understand what is going through in the case when his case is going on, her case. If this is not happening, then probably the person may not be sent to imprisonment but sent to mental health facilities or hospitals for that case. So in that way, crime and psychopathology are connected, and all the symptoms that I talked about. Now, the problem is that if these symptoms persist in an individual, then if not checked, the person is more likely to commit crime or become a victim of crime in that sense. Thank you. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Yes, Richa, tell us. Yes.
Can you share some assessments for
Share
this
what?
mental assessment?
I didn't understand. Share what, Richa?
The competency to stand in trial and the mental illness
Okay, I'll share
and
it. I'll share it.
for Indian context.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll share it later. Okay, I'll share it to the group.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
If anyone has any question, please feel free to ask.
Hi, sir.
So, if a person commit a crime means and in the court he has to prove that he's a psychological, he's having a psychological disorder. but it is not medically proved. So, what will be his punishment?
See, that is why the role of forensic psychologist, psychiatrist, and psychologist, clinical psychologist comes into picture. Therefore, there's an expert opinion. Based on the expert opinion, the judge or the case will take decision. The court judge will take a decision. So, if it is not medically seen as problematic, or suffering from that, then in that case, the person will probably undergo punishment. In that sense, it has to be medically proven that the person is unfit, or when the person has committed a crime, he was not in a mental state to understand what is he doing, what is his act is happening or her act, and what is the consequences of this act is. If that can be established clearly, then the person will be sent to mental health mental health asylums or hospitals. If that is not established, and then in that case, the person will undergo punishment.
Okay, sir.
Sir, there is a possible of one person can behave like a mental illness person.
नहीं समझ सुना idea क्या क्या बोले?
There is a possible of a normal person can be behave like a mental illness person.
आपका वॉइस ब्रेक हो रहा है, आप टाइप करके लिख सकते हो?
Sir, when feel alone and feeling in a body. So this is a disorder.
Your voice is breaking. I'm not able to figure out what you're saying. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
No, two people asked questions, but their voice was breaking, so I couldn't understand what they asked.
We are asking questions in the chat box.
Yeah, you can type
Yes,
the question if you want. I can read it.
Yes, sir, we have typed that.
Why it is not showing to me, I have no clue. Can you repeat the question again? Your question is not being shown in the chat.
There is the possibility of a normal person can behave like a mental illness person.
Someone who is very good in acting, they can fake, like somebody can bypass lie detector machines, polygraphs and all. It is possible if someone is very good, but then it is difficult because you have to create an alibi, that because once the investigation takes place, you're not just immediate medical case situation is seen, but you also produce your medical history. So someone who has suffering from mental health illness will have a medical history record, not just for the immediate case, but from the historical, for a very long time. If you need to produce those documents and proof to show that yes, you were suffering from mental health issues, if that cannot be produced, then you might not be in a position to fake it. So there you have to produce a trail of evidences to show that yes, I have been suffering from mental health problem and I've been going to this doctor and this is the doctor's report, test reports and all those things that has to produce. All those corroborative evidences that has to produce. If you cannot produce an alibi, difficult for you to get out of it.
Sir, a normal a healthy person, not a psychopathologist, can commit a serial killing, crimes, serial murders.
They can commit a murder. Whether it's a serial murder or not depends on how many times he is repeating the behavior.
Okay, sir.
Why does it that in specific period of time this type of crimes can be increased? Like when the Shraddha was in the news, we saw that cutting body parts were spread. Similarly, when the case was highlighted, of rape series, even in my area, such cases, so why did this happen?
Can anybody repeat what she said because the voice was breaking? I could only hear few cases she has said, and then the rest what exactly she asked was broken into. I couldn't hear the audio. Can anyone repeat what she has said?
Sir, I have also not heard her voice.
Because her voice was breaking. In my here I can't see the chats. It's all empty. So if anybody can see the chat, what she has written, if they can read it out clearly, I can also respond.
Can you stop sharing?
Stop sharing what? Okay, I stop. Should I stop sharing the slides?
Yes. Now there won't be an issue.
So can anybody repeat what she asked me? I couldn't hear.
Sir, can you please check in the chat box? We asked questions in the chat box.
Yeah, but the chat box my showing is empty, like all blank.
Sir, I have forwarded the chats to your WhatsApp.
Okay. I got it. Just a second, I'll just check. Okay. I am not aware of Raman Raghav case, so I don't know what I will not be able to comment on that. Then, okay, does a person with a mental disorder, can they understand that they have a mental disorder like people with schizophrenia? Some might think that some might feel that way and might personally go to the psychiatric or help for that. And most of us who do not understand these symptoms, we see it like as a normal symptom. Like for example, most of us, we do not recognize symptoms of depression. There's something called as working depression, where you will not show any sign and symptoms of withdrawal from society or anything. You will be performing as you have been performing in your work life and everything else, but deep down you are extremely depressed. So it is not so easy to see or understand the symptoms in that sense. So therefore, if you think that it's all also in terms of like, if you think that okay, this is something I feel is not what I would do, it is okay to go to a psychiatric help. But in Indian society, it is seen as a taboo. Like it is okay if you go to a general physician for yearly checkup. It is not seen as a taboo. But the moment you go and talk to a psychiatrist or a psychologist, people start telling you that you have become pagal. So this social stigma also stops people from going and talking to mental health professionals in that sense.
Sir, is this psychological disorders are curable?
Many are, and many are have to be managed, cannot be cured. Like once you have schizophrenia and all, or dementia and all, you have to undergo medication for the rest of your life and has to be managed, not cured completely.
Okay, sir.
Like if you have seen this movie, what is that dialogue? Where is the Josh of the Uri? If you've seen the protagonist mother, she was suffering from a psychological disorder. So therefore, she needed 24-hour help. She needed constant monitoring. She cannot be left at home. So she was managing with medication and help. but cannot be cured.
Yes.
No, somebody asked about different cases. Can if they can if Swapnil can write that question in the WhatsApp and share it to me.
A person
A person.
talks own self. So that's including a mental health disorder.
A person talking to own self. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, sir.
See, we all talk to ourselves. That is absolutely fine. There's that need not be thought as a mental health. Like you know, sometimes it's considered good to talk to oneself. No, you sit back, sit alone at the end of the day and see what you have done. Some of the highly, successful people in the world, they do it. They find a time for themselves, to connect with themselves in that sense. So that is not a mental health issue. It becomes a mental health issue when you keep on doing it for all the time. So continuously doing it, and then you stop communicating with other people, and there's a place and time for doing this, and you do it in any place. Like you are going to a movie hall with your friends, you're socializing, and there you are suddenly you started talking to yourself. That might be seen as odd in that sense. So
Okay.
that severity, frequency, and whether it affects your daily life activities is important to be diagnosed as a disease in that sense.
Sir, how
Yeah.
can we link psychopathy and serial killer beyond autism?
Again, psychopathy and serial killer.
Beyond autism, how can we link psychopathy and serial killer beyond autism?
Beyond autism. Autism is a different spectrum. No, it's a developmental disorder. There are different range of autistic people there, right? That is a very different than psychopath and serial killers. Serial killers and psychopaths are not autistic. Autism is a different kind of disability. It is not it, and it has different other symptoms altogether. You will see autistic. It is usually in children you see autism having developmental disorders and many other factors. So it can lead to psychomotor development, lack of psychomotor development, or no brain like the body has developed, but no your brain has not developed in that sense. So it's a different form of disorder, and psychopathology and serial killers are different types of disorders.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, I have a scenario of a forensic
Uh,
psychologist testifies in a murder trial,
uh,
but they suspect they claim the suspect has 99% chance of reoffending, but fail to mention the risk tool used way, designed only for juveniles, not for adults. So, sir, what would be the what should the psychologist should do?
what is the case? What is the case? What is the case about?
Sir, this is scenario.
What is the scenario? Can you repeat?
A forensic psychologist testifies in a murder trial,
Uh,
but they claim that the suspect has 99% chance of reoffending, but fail to mention that the risk tool is only made for the juveniles, not for adults.
what is the question?
Sir, what should what should be the mindset of him?
Oh, mindset of whom?
Psychologist.
See, if as far as I understood what you're asking, that a case came in where, if correct me if I'm wrong, a case came in where the person was tried, but then is it similar to when the Nirbhaya case came in where one of the accused was seen as below 18 years and was considered as
Yes,
juvenile?
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But the court has made it very clear, the law is very clear that depending on what kind of crime one has committed, so if it is a very serious, heinous crime, then it would be tried as an adult. Because if you consider yourself as not an adult and a juvenile and below the age of 18, not an adult, as a minor, but you are committing such heinous crimes as an adult, then you need to be tried as an adult. So therefore, in that case, the law has been changed. So therefore, now for extreme heinous crimes, the juvenile can be tried as an adult. So depending on what kind of crime the person has committed.
Okay.
Sir,
Is it for the people, the children who are about to reach their 18 years of age, like from 16 onwards and so, or
Uh,
for every child out there?
those who are reaching from 16 to 18, then what?
For being tried as an adult for heinous crimes, okay,
Uh,
is it only the children who are reaching towards their 18, or like it includes every child?
see, once you become 18, you are be tried as an adult. Okay, so the law is very clear on that part. Like there's a clear cut. Now, suppose you are 17, 16 and committed a crime like rape and murder. Then, because it's a very serious and heinous crime, therefore you'll be tried as an adult in that sense. And suppose someone committed a crime at the age of 17 years and a minor crime and has been convicted in the juvenile court, he will be given punishment, she will be given punishment only for 1 year. But as soon as he or she becomes 18, she will be, she will leave that place. So the law is very clear in that sense. There's no
I don't know,
disputation there.
sir. Actually, if the child is very small, like 10 years or so.
So there's a limit. No, juvenile can be tried between the age of this to this, only this juvenile. Below that, it cannot be considered as someone committed a crime. So
Okay,
someone who,
so there was this serial killer who killed his sisters and everyone. I'm not getting the name.
yeah, I
Right.
understood that. In that
Yes.
case, then the actus reus and mens rea has to be determined.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Because usually what the logic is, the child does not understand what he or she is doing. So suppose a child who is 5 years, 6 years happens to
Mm-hmm.
throw he found a knife in front of him and happens to throw it in front of somebody and it hits his uncle or a mother, and then he or she the child cannot be tried of murder because there is no mens rea when he didn't understand what was he doing. So
Okay. Yes.
that
Yes.
child, that actus reus, mens rea, the motive of the crime and everything has to be determined, and then it was considered in that sense. So exceptional cases also there in that sense.
And still in
Got
the
it.
serial killer cases, we have to see the modus operandi.
Modus operandi also.
sir, what factor is most important to convert a normal person to a mental illness person, sir?
What factor is most important?
To convert a normal person into a mental illness person.
There could be multiple factors, like what triggers you don't know. Some personal accident or some personal loss might trigger you get into some mental health issues, or you had a physical injury, you hit your head so bad then it caused some kind of you know physical change in your brain that causes mental health illness. Or so it depends on, there's no one particular reason, it can be many factors, like some personal trauma you have gone through. Like for example, a lot of PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder, are experienced by people who have been exposed to extreme stressful environment for a long time. So most of war veterans, people who return from long term war front. So Iraq war with US, lot of US soldiers experienced PTSD. Then Afghanistan war, where US soldiers experienced PTSD. So there's not one thing that says this will lead you to mental health. Anything can trigger that. Anything can trigger you that in that sense.
Thank you, everyone. We come to the close of today's enlightening session. It gives me immense pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks on behalf of the organizing team. First and foremost, our heartfelt gratitude goes to our distinguished guest speaker, Dr. Dibesh Devbarma, for his time, wisdom, and deeply insightful perspectives. His talk has not only broadened our understanding of crime and psychopathology, but has also inspired us to look at the human mind and criminal behavior in ways that challenge our assumptions and ignite further curiosity. I would like to extend our sincere thanks to each and every participant who joined us today. Your active presence and engagement made this session truly worthwhile. Before we conclude, just a few important announcements. Firstly, a feedback form for this session will be shared in the official WhatsApp group. We encourage all of you to take a few minutes to fill it in, as your feedback helps us to improve and bring even more valuable sessions in the future. And secondly, for those who have requested e-certificates, you will be receiving them in the next few days. Since it's the festive season of Durga Puja and Dashera, we are aiming to issue the certificates by Monday itself. But in case of slight delays due to the celebrations, please bear with us. Rest assured, you will be informed and updated in the WhatsApp group. Once again, a big thank you to our esteemed speaker, our dedicated team, and our wonderful audience. May this festive season bring you peace, joy, and inspiration. With that, we officially conclude today's session. Have a wonderful evening and happy Durga Puja and Dashera to you and your families. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening ahead.
Thank you, everyone, and happy holidays.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. You too.
Thank you so much.